The Holy Martyrs of Uganda, whom, whenever we are praying through their intercession, people use a very personal expression. I always hear when people are praying through the martyrs, there is that very personal, intimate expression. Our Holy Uganda Martyrs. You know, there is that kind of fond attachment. Our Holy Uganda Martyrs. I don't hear it with other saints. So when someone is praying, say, Most Sacred Heart of Jesus, Immaculate Heart of Mary, Saint Joseph, our Holy Uganda Martyrs. Yeah, so it means that there is something very personal, something very relational, something so strong an attachment to these matters that we feel praying through their intercession. We use that pronoun, our. So the story of the Uganda Martyrs has to be understood in the context of the martyrology in the Catholic Church. So we have to go back in the history of the church to understand well this subject of martyrs. And the study of martyrs, the understanding of the martyrs is referred to as martyrology, the study about martyrs. The word martyr itself, I think you are aware of what it means. It simply means a witness. And the first martyr recorded in Scripture, and whom we celebrate, whose feast day falls on the 26th of December, is Saint Stephen. You remember Saint Stephen? He was the first martyr in the martyrology. And we see that Saint Stephen set the pace of what it means to be a follower of Jesus, to be a witness of Jesus. Then we have many people, especially during the great persecution in the early church, many people who died or who shed their blood for Christ. That's why the first Eucharistic prayer, you know the first Eucharistic prayer, don't you? The first Eucharistic prayer is, it mentions most of those early martyrs in the church. I think you hear when the priest takes that Eucharistic prayer, it talks of Agnes, Agatha, Ferista, Perpetua, Cecilia, those very first people in the early church who witnessed to Christ without renouncing his name, without renouncing him in their lives. They died for his life, so that they are able to witness to the world that we can give our life, but our life can at the same time be restored by Jesus. And one of the most ancient description of the martyrs, or one of the most ancient maxims about the martyrs, it was made by Tertullian. There was a man who was called Tertullian in the 2nd century. During that time, many people died. Because remember, when the church was born in an environment which was hostile. The church was born in an environment which was hostile. So Christians were not sharing the same faith with the leaders, the political leaders. So the state had a different religion altogether. The emperors had a different religion altogether, different religious practices. And the Christians were like a minority. The Christians were like a minority. That's why until the 4th century, many people died. Many Christians died. And Tertullian, who was one of the great teachers of the time, he made this statement that the blood of the martyrs is the seed of Christians. Okay? The blood of the martyrs is the seed of Christians. And this statement or this maxim has informed the church in appreciating the life of the martyrs and exalting them, because through the witness of the martyrs, we are able to develop those values, those qualities which bring out what it means to be a Christian. So until the year 333, from the year 49 to 333, all those years were years of persecutions, and many Christians died. And despite the great persecutions against the Christians, they continued to grow numerous. They continued to grow. Their numbers continued to spread, and to find new communities despite the persecutions. That's why Tertullian said, if we look at what is happening, that the Christians are dying a lot, but at the same time, they continue to be numerous, then it means that the blood of the martyrs is the seed of Christians. So the problem came after 313, okay, 313, when Christianity became the state religion, the formal religion of the state, whereby the emperor and all the court officials and the whole structure of the state became Christian. So it meant that now Christians had no more persecutions. And because of that longing for martyrdom, something new came up. Many people wanted to be true witnesses of Jesus. That's why many people decided to leave towns to go and found communities in the deserts. And this marked the birth of religious life. Okay? This marked the birth of religious life. Because people thought, okay, we are no longer having persecutions. Those who were our persecutors are now we are part of them and they are part of us. But we still need to live a life of a stronger witness. That's why many of them renounced marriage. They renounced community life and decided to go to the desert. So that's why during that time you read about many people who went to the desert to found religious communities, to keep their life focused on God, to keep their life focused on Jesus. And that came to be known as white martyrdom. Because the red martyrdom, where people had to shed their blood, was no longer there. Now people embraced what is known as white martyrdom. And this is when St. John of the Desert and St. Cyril, many of those people founded communities, and many people left towns to go and live this kind of life. And if you look at the structure of religious life, the brothers, the sisters, has that foundation, going away from this common life to a life of communal living together, praying together, working together, and witnessing together to Jesus. Then the great missionary era that started in the 16th century, when many missionaries from Europe began to go to different continents, to America, to Asia, and here to Africa. We find something new coming up. That many younger people decided to go for the missions, to go to distant lands, in a way saying that they are now embracing a life of the missions, being in the missions, proclaiming Jesus, with that witness to Jesus, and this would make them to live a life of true religiosity. Okay, that's why you find many younger people who went out as missionaries, leaving their motherland or their fatherland, leaving their parents, leaving their everything to go away. And many looked at this kind of movement or this life as one way of also witnessing to Christ, but also of sharing their life, their life of faith with other people to get to know Jesus. When we come to our own context here in Uganda, when we talk about the Uganda Martyrs, the story goes back to 1879, the coming of the Catholic missionaries. 1879. I think we are going to go through this itinerary from 1879 to date. So 1879, we have the Catholic missionaries. And when the Catholic missionaries came, you remember, we have our common date, 17th February, 1879, okay, when the missionaries arrived. The arrival of the missionaries brought in something new, like what we saw in the early church. You have a kingdom with its infrastructure, both political and religious and cultural and linguistic. Then you have the missionaries coming in with a different infrastructure. And they attracted followers. And when they attracted followers, and we are going to see the reasons why the missionaries, why the martyrs died, or why the martyrs were killed. When these people became Christians, it was not a step that was appreciated by the administration or by the government of the time. And as we are going to see many other reasons why the martyrdom happened in Uganda, what's fascinating was that the death of the martyrs in that great persecution, at times referred to as the African Holocaust, it made Christianity to grow at a rapid pace here in Uganda. And Uganda, if you read about Uganda compared to other African countries, it's one of the highly Christianized countries in Africa. Christians constitute the biggest percentage, despite all these kind of sects in which we find ourselves. But Christians constitute over 80% of the whole population. And it is attributed to this beginning, the blood of the martyrs. So we have this itinerary whereby the Christians between 1885, November 15th, that's a very important date, 1885, November 15th, to 1887. During that time, the whole of that time was a time of Christian persecutions. The first martyr was Joseph Mukasabari Kudembe, who was martyred on November 15th, 1885. And then we have the other martyrs who died at various dates until the 3rd of June 1886. The 3rd of June 1886, when the biggest number of martyrs were burnt at Namugongo. So we see that when we talk about the martyrdom of the areas of the missionary work here in Uganda, because here we are still in the 1880s, in 1918, there were two Christian men. In fact, they were young men who were killed in the village of Paimor in northern Uganda. And that is Daudi Okero and Gildo Irwa. So the total number of Catholic martyrs in Uganda is 24. So we have the original 22, and then we have the two martyrs who were killed at Paimor. So these two young actually Christian martyrs from northern Uganda were persecuted in the hands of the raiders. Daud Okero was a catechist and Gildo Irwa was his assistant. So they were speared to death, and their beatification by Pope John Paul II in 2002, I think that's the actual date, in 2002, it marked the beginning of a period of robust Christian celebration of the martyrs in Uganda. So out of the original 22 martyrs that were killed, 13 of them were burnt to death at Namugongo. 13 of them were burnt to death at Namugongo, and the 9 died or were killed at different locations. That's why we have Munyonyo, you remember? We have Chamla, we have Old Kampala, we have, where else? Lubao, and Ntinda, okay? As we are going to see the many people who come for pilgrimages, they want to visit all these what? All these places. So, there are so many reasons why the martyrs in Uganda were killed. Joseph Mukasabari Kudembe, who was the leader at the king's palace, and one of the king's advisors, was killed because he had pleaded with the Kabaka to spare the life of the Protestant bishop who had come from the east. It was a taboo. It is understood that it was a taboo to enter the kingdom from behind. So entering Uganda from the east was wrong. So when this man, the Bishop Annington, came through the east, that was believed to be an enemy. So anybody who came through the east was considered an enemy. So however much Barikudembe pleaded, he was beheaded and burned at Nakivubo. Okay? And That place, there was a priest, Father Sonko, may his soul rest in peace, when he was parish priest of Mengo Chisenyi. He argued with the KCC and said, this Owino man, who is talked about that used to do some selling merchandise around that place. By the time he came, Barikudem had already shed his blood there. Okay? So we should rename the market from Owino to St. Barikudembe. Okay? Because there was this matter who had already sanctified this place. How did Owino come to claim hegemony over a place of a matter? So KCCA agreed and said, yes. That's why officially Owino Market is called the St. Barikudembe Market. And that's one way, by the way, that's one way of Christianizing the environment. It's one way of Christianizing the environment. I was in a certain country, there is a church, a very big church, and it has countless novena prayers throughout the year. So the big train station there and the bus stage, it is known as novena stage or novena station. Okay? And I think we should have influenced this road here. It should have been called St. Charles, but it's already called Kakunguru Road. You should argue with the KCC and you say Kakunguru Road of St. Charles, Rwanda. It would be, yeah. Yeah. Because you are the dominant institution around. Okay? So Kakunguru and St. Charles, they can coexist in the name. So we are going together, then we shall go through this itinerary, looking at the years and the events. So the persecutions at Namugongo we have seen up to 1886 on the 3rd of June, without recalling all those events of 25th of May, 26th of May, and the 27th of May, when other martyrs died at different locations. Several other Christians who refused to denounce their faith and working within the king's parish were rounded up and forced to march towards Namugongo for their execution. Namugongo, it is said that it was a Tambio. Currently, it would have been like the Wabatirabat by Kawowa, where people are hanged, like in Luzira. Execution. Execution chamber. Yes. So Namugongo is like the execution chamber. And one way, we are told, one way to make these people who are considered criminals or persona non grata to the kingdom or to the Kabaka, one way was to tie their bodies and pull them on their backs. That's what is called Namugongo. Yeah. Baba sikira kumugwa. I mean kumugongo. Because one thing you have to note about all executioners worldwide, one thing they master is to inflict pain. To inflict pain and as much pain as possible. They try to inflict as much pain as possible. All executioners of whatever category. So the killing of the Uganda Martyrs, we have seen that it went on up to the 3rd June. That's when we have the Holocaust. And what happened? What happened afterwards? It said that when the martyrs were taken to Namugongo and they were killed, they were burnt, but their bodies did not turn into ashes. Their bodies did not turn into ashes. So it seemed they didn't have enough firewood. You see these Indians who do the cremations, okay? They try to make sure that there's enough firewood. One place you shouldn't go to when you go to India, don't go to River Ganges where they do the cremation. Because I hear the place is so filthy. When they do cremation, some bodies don't get burnt well, and they just abandon them there. Okay, it happened here. So the executioners tried all their best to continue burning the corpses to ashes by continuing to fuel the fire, but they couldn't succeed. So they eventually abandoned the site. The executioners had never experienced what they saw with the martyrs. It was a different thing altogether. Their victims accepted to be killed willingly and sang songs of praise and worship, even as they slowly burnt to death in the flames. This was very frightening. You think you are inflicting pain, but someone is rejoicing, is singing, is praising and worshiping. It must be frightening. So, many of the executioners abandoned their execution roles for good, because this was a phenomenon that was beyond their what? Their imagination. And the execution ground was never used as a place for executing more people after the death of the Ugandan Martyrs. So, the last group of people to be executed at Namugongo were the martyrs. And according to what happened, the place was abandoned, and I think that site was closed for good. Which, if we look at it from the angle of faith, we see that was the time that God claimed Namugongo for his glory. Yes. So the corpses of the foreign martyrs were not buried by the executioners. I think it was a very frightening thing, because there was a law that prohibited burying any persons that had been condemned to death by the king. And the local people believed that such people were unworthy of decent burials, and whoever was caught doing otherwise was charged with treason. I think this resonates with the text in the Bible. You remember in the book of Tobit. You remember? In the book of Tobit, when Tobit used to go under the cover of darkness to get the dead people and bury them, okay? So that he could not be what? He could not be seen, because touching a dead body was considered, you are considered unclean and can be an outcast. So the same applies to here. So it is said that about 6 months later, 3 Christians by the names of Matayo, Leo, and Chirevu used the cover of darkness, okay, exactly like Tobit, and sneaked into the forbidden killing ground, collected the remains of Charles Lwanga, who was the first victim of the killings, and then took it to their spiritual pilgrims, took it to Father Simeon Laudel, who cleaned and wrapped the remains in a red cloth, placed it in a copper box, and buried it in the sacristy of the church at Nabulagala. Okay? And this church was later burnt down and abandoned due to the religious wars that had broken out in Uganda. And the church site became a bush, and the copper box could no longer be located. However, in October 1893, the copper box was discovered by a catechist while cultivating his land. It was taken to Father Heath in Tanganyika in 1899, and the remains of Charles Lwanga were kept at the Archbishop's Chapel until 1964, when it was taken to Rome for the ceremony of the canonization. Were some of you in Rome? I think most of us either were infants or we were not born. Yes. So all the other martyrs were also canonized, and when the present-day Namugongo Martyrs Shrine was constructed, you remember the Pope came, Pope Paul, Saint Pope Paul came to Namugongo to lay the foundation stone for that what? For that shrine. And the lyrics of Saint Charles Lwanga are still at the Uganda Martyrs Shrine in Namugongo, and act as a constant reminder of the bravery exhibited by the Uganda Martyrs. The story of the canonization skips one major event in 1922. In 1922, Pope Benedict XV beatified the Uganda Martyrs, so they became blessed in 1822. And the process of their canonization from 1922 to 1964, there was a correction of evidence and prayers of intercession through the Uganda Martyrs, praying that the Uganda Martyrs could do a miracle. And the two approved miracles, 2 out of 3 miracles. One was a religious sister who had suffered was it chicken pox? Wanji? Yeah, there was a sister. I've never heard of that fistula associated with the maybe, I don't know. But she had a sickness, and there was an intercession through the martyrs. She got healed, and an Egyptian Muslim doctor who was around examined her and found her free. And then there is a gentleman, during in 2014, you remember? In 2014, there was a gentleman who was moving around the archdiocese with the team, Mr. Kalema, I think that's the name, who was healed of his disability in the legs. So the martyrs were canonized in 1964, 18th October. During that time, the Second Vatican Council was in progress. So countless bishops were in Rome. For the first time, liturgy and hymns other than Latin were sung in the Vatican. You know, those hymns of Chagambidwa. You know, that kind of music in the Vatican, and people had never heard about it. With the drums, okay? And Uganda came to the limelight on the world stage because it was the first country whose music was played in the Vatican, and people have never heard about it. With all these drums and these voices. You know, our way of singing here culturally, there is a soloist, one person who sings, and then the others have one piece to repeat. Like that one, Kizito Musomi. This one takes all the parts. That's culturally how we sing here. Okay? If you hear these people Nandu just singing, when they are singing, she's the one who has all the words. So she gives you one part. Okay? That is your part. Then she will add on everything. Then you see that's why she can add on a lot of things. Okay? You hear such things. That is the cultural way of doing what? Of singing. And the Chagabidwa creatively put it in that hymn. That was the only part for the choir. Okay. So, now we see from 1879, we see what has happened to 1964. Okay? The canonization of the Uganda Martyrs. And during that time, many souvenirs were made. My grandfather, who gave me the name Ambrose, Judge Ambrose, he had a tray. There was very nice trays with the picture of the martyrs, and it was all the time around his bed, even up to his death. So recently, when I went home, I was asking my dad, "Where is this tray of Jaja? Who took it?" So they made many souvenirs, and there were so many programs in different parishes to enhance the faith of the people. So we realized that when the martyrs died, and now we have seen that they are canonized. And in 1969, Pope Paul VI came to Uganda. And he came on the 30th up to the 30th July to the 1st of August. And it was the very first time that the Pope visited Black Africa. And that was a very exciting moment for Uganda. I remember when we were growing up, there were school songs in the primary schools. Esawazalinga 12 omutokovu papa yatuka entebe engalo ntipwapwapwa endulu walala. You know, this was one way to keep this event memorable, okay? And the children in school would do what? Would sing it. Esawazalinga 12 zoka omutokovu papa yatuka entebe engalo ntipwapwapwa endulu walala. Okay. Let us go through the reasons. We'll go back a bit. Why were the martyrs killed? So we look at the reasons. The first one we saw was the Bishop Hannington. Bishop Hannington led to the death of Joseph Mukasabali Kudembe, because the traditional prophecy and the fears that Uganda's independence would be taken away by foreigners coming from the eastern direction. So, knowing that there was this kind of thinking for someone to begin to plead for an enemy, it was already a mistake. And the second reason is about the autocracy and unquestionable authority enshrined in Uganda's custom. Okay? Because the king had supreme what? Powers. And so according to Uganda's custom, no one had the priority to question the king's powers. Okay? You hear these words, Totunura Kabaka Muchi Mukamu. These kind of expressions, they are expressions that indicate autocracy and unquestionable authority. So Joseph Mukasabali Kudembe became a martyr when he questioned the king's orders for persecuting Bishop James Hannington. Okay? So this question of power. One of the dangerous things that Europe learned is to try to curtail power. Okay? To curtail power. That's why they make sure that no ruler has supreme what? Has supreme powers. So you have many governments where there is absolute winner takes it all, like in France, they have a very strong parliament. In other countries like the Netherlands, Belgium, Italy, they have to make sure that all politics is by coalitions. You can't rule alone. Okay? Always it must be by coalition. So that there is no one with supreme what? There's no one with supreme power, because supreme power is very dangerous. Because if you cannot be questioned, it means that you can do whatever you want. Then there was also an issue of, or a belief that the killing of the Uganda Martyrs was part of the annual traditional norm of sacrificing to the ancestors and the gods in what was commonly known as a chiwendo. Okay? There was that kind of traditional thinking. So it means that there was a practice of human sacrifice. And the history has thus concluded that Kabaka Lwanga had the Christians as rebels at his courtyard to fulfill this cultural demand. So there was a cultural mentality already. Okay? So during that time, we have rebels here, and we have a practice. Then this one could fulfill that what? That demand. Then the issue of Kabaka Mutesa in 1884, when he died, he left behind a power vacuum which resulted into the killing of the Christians. It is believed that Mutesa, as his name suggests, he was good at negotiations, okay, or conceding where possible. That's why they used to call him what? Mutesa. Okay? He had peacefully and maturely managed to handle religious disagreements in Uganda, but his death led to the rise of Lwanga into power in 1885 at a very tender age, who could not make rational decisions to handle disagreements of the time. One of the issues in life, if you cannot operate rationally, okay, that you cannot look at issues rationally, then you may end up using your power, your authority, without any application of reason. Then, this subject of another issue that is talked about is the Kabaka's immoral and unethical behavior of homosexuality. This subject is very much talked about. You read in many books, okay, history research, many articles in journals. They always associate this Kabaka with this behavior of homosexuality. And one of the challenges that homosexuals have is that there are no willing partners. They don't have partners. That's why two things happen. One, either if they have power, they seduce. There would be victims with either gifts or with the monetary promises, or to make these people famous. Again, if they don't have power, they will try to get vulnerable people. They will get vulnerable people, like younger children, or people who are poor. Okay, That's why, if you read about the issue of homosexuality in countries in Europe and America, and why they talk a lot about child abuse, a lot, it was because of this, because there are no willing partners. So these people either had to get little children, and in the church, it is claimed that if there were priests who had homosexual tendencies, they used to abuse altar boys because they are the most vulnerable ones, and because they trust a lot. They trust a lot. Children trust a lot. I was shocked when I was in England. I was in the part of Leeds, in a village called the Leadstone, in the area of Bradford. So, the parish priest was an Irish priest. He asked me to cover the time he would be away back to Ireland. And so the first day I went to celebrate Mass, I found many women in the sacristy. I said, what are these women doing here? So they were tapping on the little boys. I learned it later that these were mothers of these children. So they come, vest them with the altar servers' vestments, and they keep there. Okay? Because they don't trust priests. Priests are like vultures or scavengers who can abuse their what? Their children. So I didn't know at the beginning. So I saw all these women. And I flushed them out. But then I said, I'm a visitor. Okay. So, masses. When the bell went, when we all disappeared, all these women ran and entered the church. When Mass ended, they ran back to the sacristy. They cannot trust. Okay? Yeah, because homosexuals, others say, they don't have willing partners. Okay? That's why there are now very strict laws on sexual molestation in homosexuality. Okay? And what we read here about the unethical behavior of homosexuality, it is said that many Uganda Martyrs rejected the demands. They rejected the demands by the Kabaka after being converted to Christianity, and that angered him, and so it led to their what? To their killing. We shall talk about this topic. It is very serious later in the years to come. So the martyrs too, it is believed that they died due to the influence of one of the traditional prime ministers who was called Mukasa. This man, this prime minister, this Katikiro, like Mayiga, is thought to have ill-advised the Kabaka to do away with the Christians in Uganda for reasons of winning his favors and gaining cheap popularity, hence leading to the killing of the Christian converts. In Acholi language, there are people whom they call Ruot Chamo. There are two words here. Ruot is the chief. Okay? Then we have Cham, meaning food. So, Ruot Chamo is a person who is there to praise the chief so that he can be given food. Okay? Hey, chief, you are very good. Chief, Roti, you are doing very well. Chief, you are so nice. You've done a great job. Okay, you have some food. So they actually call that Rot Chamo. So, this particular was like a Rot Chamo. Okay? One who he wanted to win favors. Okay? And such people are so dangerous. Extremely dangerous. They are after their own what? Their own interests. They don't care what happens to anyone. Okay? As long as his plate is full. Yes. So there was this category also. So the Uganda Martyrs also, another factor here to consider is that the Uganda Martyrs were killed because of the influence of the missionaries. Because remember what we mean by conversion. Conversion, it means turning everything upside down. Okay? A person becomes new completely, a different person. So, when the martyrs were converted to the teachings of Christianity, then they were considered disobedient to the traditional religious practices. And so they stopped worshiping, sacrificing, and offering to the gods in the shrines. And this made the Kabaka annoyed, forcing him to order for their death. Okay? So remember, when we become Christians, we become a new creation altogether. So any practice that is antagonistic or that negates my new faith, that one I wouldn't embrace. And so that's why many martyrs died, because of the new religious faith. The martyrs also were victims of the Kabaka's desire to have control and superiority over all sections of people in the Uganda kingdom. You know, if you have that kind of desire to have control over everything, you have control over everything. Okay? It means that nobody who takes a different stand can be spared. So that's why the Kabaka ordered for the killing of those who opposed him and his authority. There are so many reasons, but we should end with this one, which is about looking at Jesus. Okay? Looking at Jesus. Because the martyrs, having looked at Jesus, having read about Jesus, about his death on the cross, you know, the whole Paschal mystery, his persecution, his passion, death, burial, and the resurrection, they gained a new life altogether. And they wanted now to look at Jesus as their model, their standard. Following his example, they followed his example so that they can rise again as our Lord Jesus Christ. And this forced many of them, the martyrs, to withstand all forms of threats from the Kabaka and accept death because of their hope for the new life in the resurrection. And for us, this becomes a very important reason. Okay? The fact that the martyrs had faith in the new life after death, in the resurrection. So it made them to withstand all the hardships of life. And because all of us, remember, because of our faith in Jesus, we are able to withstand the challenges that come our way. You remember our hymn? I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. Oh, no turning back, no turning. The world behind me, the cross before me. So, looking at Jesus, it means that I can face anything. No nonsense. I look at Jesus on the cross. Then I get the power to withstand any what? any challenge, any question, any problem because of Jesus. Father suggested that we talk about the martyrs and their history, which is very long. I suggest we stop there. Then we go to a very important subject, and that is about the pilgrimages. Okay? The pilgrimages. Because we have seen the martyrs, they have died, they have been beatified and canonized, and they have a shrine built in their honor. And we begin to see pilgrimages performed in honor of the martyrs. So, what's a pilgrimage? In the Christian tradition, a pilgrimage is an intentional journey. The word intentional is very, very clear. It's an intentional journey made in faith to a sacred place for the purposes of seeking heavenly aid and ultimately a deeper union with God. So a pilgrimage is a religious journey. It is a journey of faith. Christians first made pilgrimages to sites connected with the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. That was the first pilgrimages. And shortly thereafter, pilgrimages started to be made to Rome and other sites associated with the apostles and the early Christian martyrs. So people used to go to these places. The first pilgrimages were to go to the places associated with our Lord Jesus Christ. And these are still ongoing up to now. People make pilgrimages to the Holy Land and to Rome and to the different sacred places. So then people used to make pilgrimages to places that held the relics of the saints or places that witnessed apparitions of the Blessed Virgin Mary, the Mother of God. And that set pace for what it means to go for a pilgrimage or to a pilgrimage. So we go to places associated with the life of Jesus. Those of you who have been to the Holy Land, you know how exciting it is to visit all those places. When I was in Jerusalem, I spent there 7 weeks because we had gone for a course. So we would wake up very early in the morning at 5, go for Mass, the Catholic Mass at 5. Then after Mass, before all these other pilgrims are still, before they flood the place where they are still sleeping, so they open the what? The Holy Sepulchre. So I remember entering there, sitting there. Okay? I remember, and you know how stupid at times we could be, trying to take a selfie. Trying to take a selfie in the Holy Sepulchre. Because you said, I may not come back soon. Lord, have mercy on me. Let me take a selfie. So, no, it's so emotional, really so emotional. When we went to Nazareth, okay, and you have all these different pictures and statues of Our Lady from all cultures. Our Lady from Vietnam has her eyes like this. Then Our Lady from Congo, a real African woman. Then Our Lady from the UK, a real European woman with blue eyes, you know, very nice. I was thinking we should take Our Lady in a Gomez. Yeah, because I remember those of you see where Jesus taught the prayer, Our Father. We have the Our Father in Uganda, and they said it was done maybe during the time of Cardinal Suubi. many, many years ago. And I remember reciting the Our Father. We had a friend who was from Rwanda. We were 2 Ugandans and a friend from Rwanda. So it was very nice. So pilgrimages, these are journeys of faith. There is a story that makes me laugh every time I remember, or it comes to my mind. There are many people who were stranded at Namugongo after the 3rd of June. Okay? When these people were stranded, the media rushed to Namugongo. Okay? They asked, but you people, why did you come without money? They said, no, we are guests of Jesus. I liked that response. We are guests of Jesus. We came for him and he will take us back. No, I like, that kind of faith. Okay? Those of you who travel, you are very careful with your monies, don't you? Yeah. Very careful with your money. Oh, this one. No, I will not eat. So when you are eating, I will not eat from here. It's too expensive. Let me eat here because I must have. These people in Namugongo said, no, we are guests of Jesus. And nobody is still there. They have all gone back. Jesus took them back. So a pilgrimage is a journey of faith. Those of you who have made pilgrimages to Chibeho, okay, it is a journey of faith. A journey of faith to pray, to present your intentions, or to express your thanksgiving to God. It's all about faith. So, a pilgrimage is not a vacation. It's not a vacation. As Pope Benedict XVI said, he said, to go on a pilgrimage is not simply to visit a place to admire its treasures of nature, art, or history. Rather, it really means to step out of ourselves in order to encounter God where he has revealed himself, where his grace has shone with particular splendor. Okay? When you go to Rome, to all these churches, you can easily distinguish a tourist and a pilgrim. If you go to Mary Major, for instance, the Church of Our Lady, that big Church of Our Lady, you see pilgrims reciting the rosary or celebrating the Mass. And the tourists, then they pull out their camera. Yeah. Not so with the pilgrims. Because this is a journey of what? It's a journey of faith. And Pope Francis has said that going on a pilgrimage is one of the people of God's most eloquent expressions of faith. Going on a pilgrimage is one of the people of God's eloquent expressions of faith. I think you can be witnesses to this when you look at the countless people. Okay? These people, everybody is surprised. Okay? People who trek hundreds of kilometers. Okay? It's an eloquent expression of faith. Eloquent. A resounding expression of faith. At times we make short pilgrimages to Munyonyo. Okay? So we walk from our seminary. We go to Munyonyo. At times we go with our evening prayer books. On Sundays we say the prayers and then come back. And it feels really very nice. Very good. Very good. So it's that expression of faith. A pilgrimage can be a life-changing and transformative experience. It's life-changing, it's transformative. And the pilgrims don't simply visit a pilgrimage site, as I've said, as tourists. They come seeking something, okay? Often profound, and somewhere along the journey, they are helped to find it. Many people go on pilgrimage trying to seek, to find, to look for something, okay? And you hear many people giving their testimonies at Namugongo, okay? I came last year asking God, and I was praying through the matters that I get this. And now I have come back to give thanks. So many people come. Many people go for a pilgrimage with seeking something. So going on a pilgrimage may give a pilgrim a new perspective, the answer to prayer, a deeper insight into themselves and their lives, a healing, or a renewed faith. The few places I've gone to on a pilgrimage, I still have that sight fresh in my mind. Okay? It's so nice. And the pilgrimage helps to illuminate the journey of life by helping us focus on what really matters and grow in a spirit of gratitude and rediscover the joy of giving for the sake of others. Okay? We have that joy. So, here in Uganda, I was going to say something. Next year is a holy year. Next year, the Archbishop will make a formal announcement soon about the holy year. And in the holy year, there are many programs, but one of the major programs is going on a pilgrimage. And there are so many local sites that are going to be identified and marked for pilgrimage. First on the list, we have Namugongo, we have Munyonyo, we have Chiwamirembe, we have Karango. Nachivubo, yes, Paimol, Nabulagala, yes, Nabulagala, Lwanga, the cathedral, because that's what the church of our bishop is, the cathedral, and there's so many other places. Chigungu, yeah, Chigungu. So all of these places are going to be identified that we can make pilgrimages, okay? These journeys of faith in the holy year. And these will be local pilgrimages, but also international pilgrimages. To go to Rome, I think the Holy Land will be safe by then. There will be no fighting. Going to Medjugorje, going to Fatima, going to Lourdes, okay, all these, going to Chibeho, these are international pilgrimage sites. So, we have to consider that going on a pilgrimage, it's always better to take the time to reflect on why you are going. Why am I going to Namugongo? Okay? Why am I going to Munyonyo? Why am I going to Paimol? What is inspiring your heart? What is your desire you wish to put before God? Because God must be primary, right? God must be primary in a pilgrimage. And in Uganda, we are lucky or blessed to have all these pilgrimage sites, okay? And within is rich. Are there any spiritually significant places along the way that I can stop at? For instance, people who are coming to Namugongo, those from Masaka or from the west, okay, from Fort Portal, from Okava, they go visiting all the places associated with the martyrs, okay? And you find many places, like many dioceses. In Hoima, there is a Kochi, where one of the martyrs either was born, and in Hoima. Then in Jinja, there is, I think, Budini of St. Gonzaga, okay? And when these people are on a pilgrimage, for instance, coming from Masaka, they stop at, they go to Birins, the place of Kalori Lwanga. They go to Mitala Maria, okay? When they enter Kampala, they go to Narukorongo, okay? The journeys are now well mapped. Those of you who have been to Europe, there is a famous pilgrimage to, in Spain, there is that huge church. I've forgotten the name. That huge church of St. James. Who's James in Spanish? I've forgotten, there's a huge church. Okay. But all over Europe, you find that the foot pilgrims, okay, the journeys are mapped with small signposts on trees, on electric poles, and people can walk 2,000 kilometers, spending months on the way until they reach to that church. It will come. So, but as people go, they visit other small places on the way. Okay? Other small places on the way. For instance, those from Entebbe, at times they stop at Suubi, where Mapera stayed. Then at times they go to Chitebi, where they stayed waiting to meet the Kabaka. Then they continue on their journey. So they don't make one way all along, you know. They have to make stopovers. So, Namugongo Martyrs Shrine is now a national pilgrimage site for us. But internationally, there are many people who come to Namugongo. Whenever I go to Namugongo, you find groups of people. Hello, how are you? Where are you from? We are from Germany. Ah, themselves. Welcome. You might find some Americans. We are from America. Come to see the martyrs. Okay? It's a pilgrimage site. And it welcomes tens of thousands of pilgrims every year from all types of faith, cultures, and beliefs. And at the Martyrs Shrine, the administrators try to respond to the unique journey of each pilgrim. One of the challenges we have in our places is that some of the people who are there or prepared to help the pilgrims my word has gone. But they help the pilgrims, okay? But something more, okay? Something more. In Munyo they try. There are some little girls. Hello, you're most welcome to the Martyrs Shrine. And then they give you the history, okay? What took place here. Then they give you the geography, how the place looks like. They give you the timetable. We have masses here. And then, you know, then you get to know the place in about a few minutes. So, when you enter the Basilica at Namugongo, you find many people sitting in prayer at the site of St. Charles Lwanga. I think you've seen many people, okay? I'm sorry to say. Some really fanatic devotees, or you find them completely prostrated because they feel this is the place. Okay. We find that pilgrimages are part of our faith. I'd like to end with the 3 reasons why we should go on a pilgrimage, why we should try to go on a pilgrimage. 1, it reminds us that our very lives are a pilgrimage. Okay? Our very lives are a pilgrimage. Our homes are in this world, but we are only here temporarily. And you remember those hymns always remind us, Toli Morogendo, Toli Morogendo, Gendo Lugenda Mogulu, Toli Morogendo, Gendo Lugenda Mogulu, Toli Morogendo, Toli Morogendo, Lugenda Mogulu. You see? When you go on a pilgrimage, it's a reminder that our very lives are what? A pilgrimage. Okay? Tuli balamazife kunsi kuno twesungano okutuuka gye tulibeera bueno. Then there is this hymn, Pilgrim people. Is it? No, that's not it. Please, people, holy people, God's chosen people, sing praise to the Lord. Yeah, there are those hymns that talk about the pilgrimage, okay? So, even wherever we are, we find that we are like guests. So while in a pilgrimage and on a pilgrimage, it might seem like something beyond. It reminds us that we should live our lives as if we are merely travelers passing through. This is a very common and powerful theme in the Catholic Church, that we are pilgrims, okay? We are pilgrims, we are on the way. Second, being on a pilgrimage reminds us that the world and the church are bigger than what we've known thus far. It expands our ideas, both of time and space. Pilgrimage sites tend to draw faithful people from all over the world. Okay? And you find when you go on a pilgrimage, you feel like you are at home. When people are somewhere, we went to Częstochowa. Those of you who have been to Poland, Częstochowa, the Black Madonna, you have that picture of Our Lady. Countless people go there. And when people go there, they don't go there for an hour, but a full day. Okay? Some people stay there for a full day. They attend one mass with some pilgrims, and then they go to eat in the restaurant, then they come back, recite the rosary, and if there is mass going on, they go to join in, and then around 5, go back home, like they are at home. And so a pilgrimage reminds us that the world and the church are bigger than what we are. And those of you who have been to Rome, in the Wednesday general audience, when the Pope is going to give a general audience, my goodness, you find all these countless people with their flags, Okay? Now I'm going to buy my Ugandan flag and put it in my traveling bag. When I was going to Israel, I went with it. You know, it is very patriotic to move with our flag. I'm a Ugandan, don't joke with me, from the land of the Martyrs. Then, when we visit pilgrim sites, okay, and we say prayers at those places, we join countless people down through the centuries who have been coming there for these pilgrimages. So you join countless people. Like when you go to St. Peter's, when you go to all those churches of the saints, I go there, I was there last year, but then I join a history that stretches thousands of years back, maybe 2,000 years. And then when I join all these people, from Argentina, from South Africa, from China, from India, you know, I realized that I'm part of a huge population. And the third, like retreat, pilgrimages allow us to step outside of the regular pattern of life. Okay? It helps us to step out of that regular pattern of life, and we destabilize it. We destabilize this common pattern in which we find ourselves, and then we are able to hear God's voice, because we have gone out of the what? Yeah, the comfort zone. Okay? And a pilgrimage requires that we be on the move, giving us practice at becoming contemplatives, that we can deeply enter into prayer. We can deeply enter into prayer, and that intimacy with God. I think with this, we shall be able to benefit from the pilgrimage we shall make. I've seen many people making pilgrimages as different groups, either as choirs going to Chiwamirembe, or regionaries going to Chipeho, or married couples. Now married couples go to Nabulagara, because that's where the first wedding took place of Matia Murumba. Yeah, the married couples of Ntinda should organize a pilgrimage to Nabulagara to renew their vows where Matia Murumba did what? Where he got married, and because he had many wives, he renounced all of them. The missionaries made sure that he provides for each one of them, so that they are not made to be what? Beggars. And then he married the one whom he chose. And the news from around the world, when quoting Bishop Wokorach in Namugongo, he preached something about it. And he talks about what you want with him. It was about when candidates, when a party is going to get a candidate to front, they hold a primary vote, right? They're primaries. So the bishop said that polygamous couples should make primaries. I don't remember how he said it. Did you follow it? It's on YouTube. You could go back to that homily. And many newspapers picked that. I would like to thank you, sir. Oranji, But the story of the martyrs, this is one aspect, but there are so many aspects of the martyrs. Okay, if we are to look at the value of resilience, on Saturday, last Saturday, I was meeting Catholic Men's Guild of Namugongo Parish, and I told them that being Catholic men from Namugongo Parish and having St. Mary Kudembe as your patron, you must be your men, strong. Okay? You must be strong. Culturally, a man ought to be strong, resilient, confident. There is a Uganda word which I use, and the people turn it into something. In Uganda, there is what they call Oryongo Yongo. Oryongo Yongo. No. Not a Kayongo Yongo. Kayongo Yongo is a bird. But Oryongo Yongo is a weakling. A weakling. That nowadays we have men who are weaklings. Okay? They run away from their families, they run away from their wives, they run away from their children, and some fear to take on responsibilities and keep with their parents. In Europe, they call them crypt-wing generation. A group of, there's a generation which fear to step into life to be on their own. They are called crypt-wing. When a bird is hatched, okay, it is fed in the nest as the wings grow. When the wings grow, it flies out. If you clip the wings, it keeps there. Okay? Then I said, if families, if we don't look at the martyrs who are strong, despite the persecutions, they were singing, okay? That kind of energy. We need to see that in the men of our time. In the men of our time. Not people who run away from responsibilities. Okay? He runs away from his responsibility. Then he begins to advertise himself looking for a sugar mommy who has made money to go stay there. I think we shouldn't have such things in Uganda where we have the martyrs. Martyrs who have shown us what it means to be men. I was in Nigeria, and there is a group of men called Men of Vera. Men of Vera. These provide security at all church functions. They have kind of a military uniform. I think they agreed with the government. So you can't enter the church because of this terrorism with the Nigerian things. So these men of Vera, you see that they are really strong men. And the church cannot grow if we have Uluyongo. Okay? Ingajaba. Ingajaba. We need to train. And for parents, we need to train real what? Real men, strong men. Okay? We need to train them to be strong. At times, tell him, I'm not taking you to school. Take a bus, go to school. It means that you are training this man to be what? Then he learn what it means to be in charge of his life. I should stop that. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Matia ne kalori ne bana me avili abasti